Newshour at 9. Presented by Amity University. Co-presented by RP Sanjeev Goenka Group. Co-powered by Greenply and Adani.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. What's behind the blazing door of the judge's outhouse? That's the burning question which has rattled the legal and political corridors of power. This mystery began with news of piles of cash being recovered from the outhouse of a Delhi High Court Judge, Justice Yashwant Verma. Over the course of the show, I will show you what the police found when they opened the door to the Mega Times Now investigation. Let's first, like any mystery novel, set the context for you and tell you about the suspects and finally unravel the truth. This elusive truth may be burnt, but certainly not buried. It all began on the night of Holi on 14th of March. The family of Justice Verma raised an alarm about a fire in the house at a time when Justice Verma himself was not in town in Delhi. Reports surfaced that police recovered a massive stash of cash from the outhouse of Justice Verma's residence. The police stepped in and the Chief Justice of India-led Collegium was informed of the alleged unaccounted money. Reports that the Supreme Court allegedly transferred Justice Verma back to Allahabad High Court led to fire and fury. The legal fraternity started voicing concerns about accountability and transparency. They asked, should judges probe themselves? After all, they contend Caesar's wife must be above suspicion. The Delhi High Court Bar Association too vociferously complained. In fact, it is the Allahabad High Court Bar Association that said, we are not a trash can where the judge can be transferred back to. These doubts forced the Supreme Court to release a statement. It stated that an in-house inquiry led by the Chief Justice of Delhi High Court has already been ordered before the 20th of March. Supreme Court added that 20th of March, the Collegium of the Supreme Court met and examined the proposal to transfer Justice Verma, the decision for which is still open. But it categorically stated that the proposal to transfer is independent and separate from the in-house inquiry procedure. Today, the High Court Chief Justice of the Delhi High Court is expected to submit his inquiry report to the Supreme Court 6 days after the blaze on Holi night. Here on the Newshour, I will tell you what the police found behind the door of the outhouse. The mystery of the burning cash will be unraveled. But first, watch the questions raised on scrutiny of the judiciary. Should judges themselves be the judge, jury and executioners in their own case? Listen in.
The issue of corruption within the judiciary is a very serious issue, and this is not something that has been articulated by senior counsel and lawyers in this country. So I think that it's time for the Supreme Court to start looking at issues of how the appointment process should take place, that it should be more transparent, appointments should be more carefully done.
Judicial corruption and judiciary is a very dangerous thing. The poor people believes that judiciary will give them justice, but this kind of corrupt practices, money in judges' houses is very, very serious thing. Hope the honorable judges takes it seriously and act upon it.
मैं सिर्फ इतना कहना चाहता हूँ, अगर अनअकाउंटेड कैश मिला है तो ट्रांसफर पनिशमेंट नहीं है ना, संदेश तो अच्छा नहीं जाता है ना। इतनी बड़ी मात्रा में कैश कहां से आया? अब तो उनके सारे जजमेंट देखने होंगे अगर उस कैश के पीछे सच्चाई है। कहीं जजमेंट से तो उसका ताल्लुक नहीं। ये बहुत चिंताजनक परिस्थिति है।
Well, breaking news coming in to us at this time is the blockbuster breaking news. Let's tell you what really happened on the night of Holi and the unholy charges that followed. The judge's family called the Tughlaq Road police station on 14th March and reported a fire. The police reached the house of the judge and went to the outhouse behind the main residence area. In the storeroom, they found sacks. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, not one or two, but several sacks of notes that had been stored in that storeroom. Several sacks. Please note, several sacks. And sources have revealed that so many sacks could not have any less than 45 to 50 crore rupees. Half of these notes seem to be half burned, some sacks were damaged, the police recovered, and there was mobile footage that was recorded. This mobile video of sacks and burnt notes was sent to the top cops. Simultaneously, the fire services who had been called by the police arrived and then doused the fire. The police informed the topmost levels of the government following this, following which this entire issue and the video was forwarded to the Collegium of the Supreme Court. We understand that some family members of Justice Yashwant Verma were standing when the police arrived, witness to those sacks of notes that were available, but due to the fire they were asked to go inside the main residence, and then the police took this entire material into their custody. So far, no decision has been taken on the transfer of this judge, but sources say that the cash to the tune of 45 to 50 crores was found in that outhouse, which had caught fire due to a short circuit. In fact, since the news of that fire has come out, the judiciary has been on fire in a manner of speaking. So, ladies and gentlemen, the legitimate question that we are asking on the Newshour tonight: can judges be their own jury? That's the question, and that is the debate on the other side.
You're watching the News Hour at 9. Debate number 1 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
Joining me tonight is Mahesh Jethmalani, senior advocate in the Supreme Court. Also joining me this evening is Dushyant Dave, senior advocate and former president of the Supreme Court Bar Association. Dushyant Dave, today the judiciary literally on fire, questions now being raised about the fact that 14th of March is when the cash was discovered, 20th of March the Collegium met. On 21st of March, nearly 8 days since that first fire was reported, people of this country don't know how much cash was recovered, how much cash was burned, and what has happened in the last 7 days. Do you think that's fair and transparent?
Nothing about judiciary is transparent. This is only a tip of an iceberg. I mean, I can assure you, I have written letters after letters to the Chief Justice in last 25 years, pointing out about wrongdoing by judges of the Supreme Court again and again with concrete evidence. And never has, those letters been responded to by the Chief Justice, nor the other judges have ever acted upon them to force the Chief Justice to take action. Things are terrible. There are very many honest judges. But there are large number of minuscule minority of judges who are terribly corrupt in the institution. And this has been going on for last 4 decades. And nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to discuss it. And certainly nobody wants to question them. It's only people like, me who have really written again and again about it to the judges on several occasions. So I am not surprised, nor am I shocked at what has been. I know of judges who have given such questionable judgments that you can palpably feel that these judgments have come in extremely, important matters involving business houses, matters involving politicians, powerful, rich and powerful people, where these judgments really are subject to serious scrutiny. And if you walk in the corridors of those courts, any court in the country where these judgments have come, you will hear from the lawyers as to what these judges are. So I am really, this is on the part of judiciary, there is a complete state of denial for last 4 decades. They just don't want to, discuss it. They never, ask people like us. They could have asked somebody like Mahesh Jethmalani about Bombay High Court or many other high courts that he goes to and he knows the judges before appointing lawyers as judges. They can ask him about the Supreme Court judges sometimes, discuss it openly and frankly, but it never happens. They live in ivory tower. They are not interested in improving the lot of the judges, and it suits them because there are, various kinds of interferences which are taking place in the institution. There is serious political interference deflecting judgments. There is serious ideological interference deflecting judgments, and there is serious financial interference deflecting judgments. So there is more than one way judiciary is under challenge. Take, for example, registry of the Supreme Court. We all know that certain lawyers can get their way into that registry of the Supreme Court and get their matters of powerful, rich and powerful industrialists listed before special benches. Other lawyers can't just do it. Now every judge knows it. Every Chief Justice knows it. The bar members know it. But nothing can be done because nobody wants to discuss, Navika ji. And what is important is that justice.
But this is not any other matter. This is not just a simple matter, Dushyant Dave. This is the question of finding stash of cash. When is the last time you saw sacks full of 500 or whatever rupee notes put in a outhouse of a judge's government allotted accommodation?
I can assure you, many have gone away scot-free with much more cash in their homes. Their lifestyles post-retirement are shocking. One of them even owns a Rolls Royce. These kind of things which are happening in judiciary, we all know. In corridors of court, you come and sit in the canteen, you will hear, quietly as to what is happening in the institution. We love institution, both Mahesh and I. We respect it. We are discussing this because we want our institution to be purified. We want it to really work for justice, administration of justice. It's not that we are critical of this. We are wanting a judiciary where everybody can get free and fair justice. That's what is important. If you don't have rule of law, then what is democracy about?
Absolutely, but Mahesh Jethmalani, Rolls Royce post-retirement is one thing. Yes. But while you are a judge, if sacks of cash are found in your own outhouse, can there be a prolonged manner in which action can be taken? Can we take 8 days and yet have no transparency? Because even if the Supreme Court Collegium met yesterday, why is there no statement on what and how much cash are we talking about? Why are there no details about the fact that what really transpired, how it came about? There are videos that were taken by the Delhi police, or so we are informed. If all this evidence is available, just what are we waiting for? And is this one of the other cases where the judiciary is going to be judge and jury of their own case and just stay silent because, as Dushyant Dave says, they sit in their own ivory towers and their accountability is really to none? Politicians have accountability to either Parliament or the people of India. Media has accountability. Contempt of court is something everybody is worried about. What about the accountability of the judiciary, which is the fourth pillar of democracy?
Both you and Dushyant have raised many points, and most of them are valid, right? There is no doubt that today's fire, the fire that took place in the outhouse of Justice Verma, is a seminal moment. It gives us a chance, right? As Dushyant said, it's only the tip of the iceberg. Judicial corruption is the most open secret in the corridors of New Delhi. Let me tell you that he's right on that. Here you have a case now, as you pointed out, Navika, where somebody is caught patently, right? And as you said, if it is sacks and sacks of money, then you are right. What you have said about then there being a need for the public's right to know. There are many issues which arise. Firstly, what was the amount? If there are sacks and sacks, this is very serious and the public has a right to know, and the litigating public has a bigger right to know, as does the legal profession, right? This is something a lot of people have suspected. There have been examples. Dushan knows of some, I know of some, right? He's complained in writing, I've complained orally. But if this has happened now, you have a chance for serious reform. First of all, you are again right that the judges in this case should have put out in the public domain what the quantum was, right? Secondly, they should have put out at least whether this is related to just a case of disproportionate assets, or whether there's some evidence that this has been bribe given in one or maybe a series of cases. These are two questions which in 6 days should have really been made public. This should have been, this conclusion should have been arrived at, and it should have been made public. Now we are told that an in-house inquiry is still going on. Fair enough. You know, maybe it's going to take a little more time. Maybe the judges who are conducting this in-house inquiry are actually going into a deep probe and want to be very fair to the judge before they come out with their findings. Fair enough. But this is a kind of case where the outcome of the inquiry should be made public as soon as possible. That's all I'll say for the time being. Secondly, it's also the time for now reform about the investigative process. I agree with Dushan. I don't know whether we need to go as far as having an overseeing body over the judiciary, a kind of ombudsman for the judiciary. I don't think that's necessary. But I do think there is scope for introducing external respected elements from outside the judiciary to also be part of the process of inquiry and decision. So this gives us a great opportunity. As I said, the fire has now exposed Delhi's open secret, right, and made it public. It was an open secret, but people refused to discuss that secret. Now it's time where we actually take the bull by the horns, right, and not just about this case, we find remedial processes for the future.
Well, Dushyant Dave, I want to ask you on a more serious note. Eminent people from outside, judging the cases of judges, do you think they're going to allow it? Because judges appoint themselves. You know, one collegium decides which judge is going to come in, and you always hear, ye iska aadmi hai, ye iska aadmi hai, this is the person who brought this one in, that one in. If people who are not in the corridors of the courts hear about this, I'm sure you do all the time. I just want to ask you, the Supreme Court judges, the entire courtroom, in fact, met this judge, Justice Yashwant Verma, this morning. Now, when an inquiry is going on by the Chief Justice of the Delhi High Court, the judge meets the entire court of the Supreme Court, all the judges present there. Is that even a procedure? Will inquiries be done in-house, presentations made in-house because they are lawyers? And what about the public that depends on this judiciary to give them justice? What about their faith in the whole system that has been shaken to the core?
See, Verma, and Mahesh will agree with me, is known to be a good judge. So it comes as a great surprise to us that he is caught in this bind, yes, first and foremost. Yes. Secondly, I must say one thing, that judiciary is very hypocritic. When it comes to a 10 rupee bribe by a conductor or a constable, they take a very serious view, sometimes after 10-20 years, and send him to jail. Now, if you have, under the ordinary law, if this kind of a cash was found from a politician's house or a minister's house or a bureaucrat's house, he would have been immediately taken into custody. Okay? Judges seem to enjoy this, kind of protection in the garb of independence of judiciary. Now, I am very much clear about it that this garb has to be lifted. We cannot allow our judges to behave the way they want to do it. But it must come from within. I am not willing to give that power to the politicians, because my worry is, although I am deadly against the collegium system, and I think the collegium system has really done great disservice to the judiciary, and some of the worst judges have been appointed by collegium members over last 40 years. Some of the worst. I mean, executive never appointed such bad judges as collegiums have, and are continuing to do so on a daily basis. So, I mean, every high court I travel to, lawyers walk up to me after my arguments are over and complain bitterly about the conduct of the judges in their court. Financial impropriety, their misconduct, many things they complain about. And these are all judges who are appointed in last 10, 15 years. So, it's becoming a nightmare for young lawyers to practice in courts. Those lawyers who have some cliques are willing, are appearing and getting orders. So there are every way this, kind of a system is hurting, not just litigants, honest litigants, but honest lawyers. It is, hurting justice system beyond repair. So we must have a system, judges must find out a system now that when this happens, this judge must not only his judicial work must be withdrawn, but within less than 24 hours, they should examine the evidence themselves, and if they find prima facie it's a case of offence, they should allow CBI or other investigating agency to lodge an FIR and arrest that man. Unless you do that, what message can you send? There are hundreds of them outside, judges across the country, who are indulging in corruption, while thousands are honest and protecting the institution. So I think, but it has to come from
Well said, Dushyant Dave. In this case, especially in this case where cash has been recovered, Mahesh Jethmalani, is this not a fit case for a criminal investigation? Why should the judge, get the long rope, number one? And number two, I want to ask you, the collegium yesterday, and a clarification has come, the collegium yesterday put out a debatable question on whether he should be transferred. My first premise is, how can you just transfer a judge and send him to another high court? What about his judicial duties there? How can this alternative even be on the table when you're discussing cash haul at a judge's residence? I want to ask you this.
Yes, let me first say this. I mean, my first interview I gave today, I said very clearly that transfer is not the answer. But we now have a clarification from the Collegium. I don't know if you've read it. A very recent clarification this evening, I think, early this evening, that the transfer was not because of this particular incident, this recovery of these hordes of cash from his house. It wasn't because of that. We are now told by clarification that the transfer was in the normal course. It was even prior to this entire incident under consideration. Right? Now, I will take that as face value. So, do you believe that? If the Collegium says so.
No, but will you believe that? Does this help the cause of the judiciary today to put out a clarification? Dushyant Dave, will you believe that statement even at face value?
See, the Collegium backtracked because of resolution by Allahabad High Court Bar Association. And they rightly said that don't treat us as a...
I agree with you, because the Allahabad High Court Bar Association said we are not a trash can, which is why the clarification has come. So, Mahesh Jethmalani, none of us were born yesterday.
Yes, you may be right, and Dushyant is right, but I'm not going to make there is a strong ground for believing that what you both have just inferred is a correct inference, right? There's strong ground. But at this stage, I don't want to prejudge this issue, because that will show that we have a very low opinion about our Collegium. It may be so, I'm not ruling it out, but I don't want to believe it of the Collegium, because I believe the Collegium consists of men of integrity, right?
Absolutely.
Now, if they've acted under pressure, it is wrong on their part. If they've acted under pressure of the Allahabad Bar, it is even worse. Yes. So therefore...
Well, they may be outstanding judges. I'm not somebody who knows them personally. So I have no comment on that. But when I talk about perception, when I talk about democracy, and this is all about democracy, when I talk about people's rights,
Let me
as
tell
you said, Caesar's wife
Navika,
has to be above suspicion, and the credibility has to speak in terms of action rather than clarifications that come later. Isn't it, Dushyant Dave? So, faith in judiciary extremely shaken. Yes, Mr. Dave.
Let me tell you very clearly. My experience of being at the bar for 46 years tells me that judges scratch each other's back. They are overly protective about their judges. Even when I have personally spoken to Chief Justice after Chief Justice about certain judges, they don't want any exposure to be made because they feel judiciary's image will be tarnished. Now, unfortunately, unlike countries like Western countries, there are, all kinds of surveys taking place. If a survey were to be done about judiciary in India, I swear to God, that survey will portray judiciary in a terribly poor light. And you will be surprised to note, Navika, that when NJSC case was being argued, I appeared on behalf of the Supreme Court Bar Association and I openly submitted to the 5 judges that wear a burqa and walk in the corridor of every court of this country and you will know what your goodwill and reputation is. So I can tell you, I am very clear about my thoughts. I respect judiciary, but judiciary has been living consistently in state of denial. They don't want anything to come out. And as a result, large number of Chief Justice...
Time to wake up, smell the coffee, because the clock is ticking and people of this country are watching. Now is the time. Trial by fire, as they say. And that's literally what this has brought us to. Thank you very much, Dushyant Dave, and thank you, Mahesh Jethmalani, for joining me.